Now, happy holidays. How you guys doing tonight? I hope I don't put you to sleep. I'm going to try and figure out this microphone so I'm not popping in it. I'm not going to do this entire talk with this hat on. Let's get that straight because it's going to get hot in here. As he said, I'm a second time presenter. The last time I did this in a sweatsuit. Florida's hot. All right, guys, so today's topic is ideas meant to change the world. And it is my humble opinion that unconditional love, if implemented, even imperfectly, by most of the people in this world, could radically change this world. Let me start by being very clear. And with this projector as well. I'm going to read off this screen because I got to give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer because we're going to talk about some pretty serious stuff, right? So I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm not here to tell you how to feel. I'm not here to tell you how to respond to what, if anything, resonates with you today. Although I am totally free to do this with you starting after the talk. I'm not here to preach or talk to you as if I'm better than you, smarter than you, and or superior to you. I am here to explain what I have learned and witnessed specifically with this topic and how it has worked out in humanity today. I say all this because this topic is one of the hottest today. Many people don't understand it on any level, and others take parts of it and then manipulate it to their own scrupulous means. It is the equivalent of talking about religion, politics, and or sports at family functions. Would you agree? Emotions run high as the conversation evokes both the best and worst memories of the experiences we have had with love, or what we perceive to be love. So I beg and plead with you to remember these points as I walk through this talk. And I beg and plead with you to open up your ears and your hearts and fight off those desires to shut me out, to discredit me, to belittle me, to write me off as some hack that has no idea what he's talking about. What is your experience with love? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it sad? Is it depressing? If it has been the best thing you've ever experienced, it most likely was unconditional love. If it was the worst thing you've ever experienced, it definitely was not unconditional love. Take a look at the world today and watch the news. We see some really heartwarming stories, right? The best of them, the one that get your tears going, get your heart pumping. We also see some of the most heart-wrenching stories, right? Atrocities, and I do mean atrocities. Why is it that all the children of all the species of the world come into this world and are generally the most common examples of unconditional love, trust, and faith? What is it about this world and our responses to it that a being can come into it so loving and trusting and a few years later be jaded and burnt by this blue ball? Why is it that as humans we are capable of both seemingly magnificent and loving and also horribly atrocious behaviors? What would happen if the intent and heart of each of the good stories we hear were the guides by which every single person on this planet behaved all day, every day? Let's take a look at what I believe to be the cause of the most atrocities we face and imagine for the next few moments the impact on humanity and the world if we were to implement what I believe to be the solution of the world's issues. Let's chat about the concepts of unconditional and love. To adequately grasp any idea when in a group, we all have to agree on a definition, right? Generally, I like to frame our discussion by going to the wise sages of the ages. It's best to get a definition from people who have sat for hundreds of years at least pondering what that definition should be. Life experience culminates into our framing of that idea through this definition. And really, we are talking about two ideas that, if implemented, would radically change the world. Two ideas: unconditional and love. Two TED Talks in one, for free. What do you think about that? I believe it is best to frame this discussion not only with the individuals that have the most wisdom from our history, but also with the individuals we're having a discussion with. And number two, not dependent on or subjected to conditioning or learning. What? Unconditional? That's revolutionary in and of itself. When's the last time anybody in this room did anything that was not subject to conditions or limitations? And when's the last time anybody in this room did something that was not dependent on or subjected to condition or learning? In fact, we live in a world where almost everything we do is subject to conditions or limitations, and we are dependent on and subject to conditioning or learning in order to be able to do it. Not everything that we do, want to do, or can do is subject to this stuff. No one, as I said earlier, can force you how to think, to feel a certain way, or when to think or feel it. But let's not forget about the concept of love. We talked about unconditional. Let's go to love. It's a verb. It's about help and support. It's about nurture. It's about growth. It's about all these positive things, right? It's a good definition. I like that. So let's take a look at what Merriam-Webster's dictionary has to say on the definitions of love. There's one page. There's one before it. As you guys can see, that is a lot of definitions on the topic of love. Obviously, this is a very serious thing in humanity to have that many definitions. So we could sit here and we can go through the fact line by line, the definitions line by line, and talk about what love is. But I think we all get the point, right? We know what love feels like. We've all felt it, even if for a sliver of a second, even if you came from the most horrible backgrounds in life. I've heard some of the most amazing stories, and some of the people that you think would be the most bitter are some of the most loving people after everything they've been through. So if it's a noun and a verb, then that means it's a thing, and you can show it. So there are two important factors mentioned here: love for oneself and love for others. Where have we heard this phrase before? The golden rule, the measure by which almost everyone would like to be treated. Agreed? We have the golden rule for a reason. This idea is one of the most sought-after concepts in human existence, as shown by the amount of definitions it has, and I'm talking about unconditional love. Everyone wants to receive it, show it, feel it, and see others experience the feeling. Even the most disturbed humans that walk this planet are subject to these desires. Trust me, I've met them. If it is so prolific and desired, one may ask, then why is it so cold in this world at times? What is the problem with humanity demonstrating and receiving this most coveted thing? Love for oneself and love for others. You see, the biggest problem I believe with humanity is that we do not love ourselves enough, or we love ourselves too much. There's not a healthy balance. We know these terms, martyr and narcissist, and we have all had moments of them. If we do not love ourselves enough, then we are not demonstrating unconditional love. We have set conditions on our love for ourselves. We will not love ourselves unless something is better, different, something other than what we are now. Who is familiar with the term, we are our own worst critics? The term exists for a reason. It's not just subject to artists. And if we have too much love for ourselves, this is also setting conditions on our love because we only have it for ourselves. We've all dealt with that, right? Love for others. The reason we have a golden rule, the reason we have any rules, is because always at some point someone will do only what is in their best interest, even if it is to the detriment of all others. And we are all capable of it, and or have done it, even if on what you would consider to be a small scale compared to what others have done in their life. We live in a world that is fundamentally conditional with its love for others. That is why we have to have slogans like, be a good person, do no harm, don't tread on me. All the world needs is love. Everywhere we look, love is conditional. Favors, duties owed from them, whether real or implied, and back scratching also exist because not many people are willing to do something to benefit another person for free. Or some will not hesitate to prey on other members of society with their favor asking. And so those others need some way to get something out of the arrangement to protect themselves. Would everybody agree with that? That's kind of how it is, right? Every single thing we do, even going to the grocery store anymore. And every time I have asked a bully, a rapist, a child molester, a murderer, a terrorist even, who was in an emotionally vulnerable moment, and yes, I have gotten that opportunity much, why they are so unloving and hateful, the response was almost always, because they don't love me, so forget them. And the conversation would ensue as such, will you not try to rape me or kill me? And this was a serious question. I had to ask this. And will you try to see how I see you, a human with value and capable of working to right past wrongs based purely on the motivation that love provides? I'll not try the first, and I'll definitely try the second. We'll all be. A convicted rapist and murderer gives me an all try. And if he is capable of working at it, then no one has an excuse. And that's all it takes. You see, we also live in a world where if you show up and half-ass something, you're probably doing better than most around you. And showing up and half-assing unconditional love is better than not showing up at all. Would you agree? Now imagine for a moment what would happen if you could just go get anything you want as a gift. Imagine if everyone had their needs met. And we are not talking about materialistic wants here. Imagine if everyone loved everyone unconditionally and was always willing to walk the extra mile with each other. Just imagine it. We're not talking about if you think it's possible or not. Just we're going to sit in that that imagination, our childhood imagination, with that beautiful thought. Now I'm going to crush it. Not possible on this planet, you say? Okay, I won't argue. But the fact that you are saying this shows that the world definitely needs it. And if it were to be implemented by all, even imperfectly, this world would be full of more possibilities of things that can be accomplished by us living and working in harmony, a consequence of unconditional love. And we mostly agree that if everyone tried their best to love unconditionally, this world would be a better place. But can we do it? This utopian thinking has had humans throughout our history seek to spread it and even create societies for it on Earth. The question I ask most skeptics, myself being one, of this utopian Earth theory, as I call it, why do you think that we can't do it? The answers vary, but most just say that we are not capable of it as a species. To which I retort, are you capable of it? If even one of you says yes, and you go out and show it, what do you think the impact might be? You see, all that really matters is if each of us works to love ourselves and love our neighbors as more than ourselves, regardless of how they look, sound, act, etc. Just simply love them and accept their value as equal to or better than ours, only based on the fact that they are a fellow human. If each one of us went through our day like that, we would start a wildfire of love, because love breeds love. Finally, if everything I have said this far has not provided enough evidence for the case of implementing unconditional love and the benefits of its consequences, allow me to share my personal experience with unconditional love. If I start crying, I apologize. Y'all know me by my name, as it shows on all the very beautifully designed TEDxWinterPark marketing material, but I have another identifier. Colorado Department of Corrections number 138649. Spent 12 years in prison for second-degree murder in the state of Colorado. I was charged with first-degree murder, and I got found guilty of the lesser second-degree murder. At that point, I did not love myself. I just found out that I had accidentally killed another human being. But accident or not, justified or not, I was responsible for removing another soul from this earth. A father, a brother, an uncle, a cousin, and so much more to so many people. Just gone because of me. That was the hardest thing I had to face. And my response started with me trying to take my own life. This was the worst I had ever been mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Over the first 3 months of being in jail awaiting my trial, the penalty for which was automatic life in prison without the possibility of parole, I pondered life, my life, his life, everyone's life, your lives, even though I didn't know you. I pondered life as we know it on the face of this planet. Needless to say, I was not successful in taking my own life, but during that 3 months, I might as well have been dead. Before that, I was extremely loving, non-judgmental, open, and accepting. Ironic to hear this because I'm a convicted murderer, I know. Because I first loved and appreciated myself, and from that came my love and appreciation for others in life. After the incident, I was callous, hard, judgmental, angry, not to mention sad, frustrated, and depressed, all at myself. And from that came the same towards all the people that crossed my path. It was a sad time, the absolute worst, and it was all about projection. It wasn't about you, what you say or what you do. It was about what was going on internally inside of me that drove my feelings and emotions. I had called out to the universe, to whomever or whatever is out there, And out of all the world religions that I have studied, it was the one God that I didn't even believe existed who responded. It wasn't the God that I was raised on. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was Jesus. And he came to me in a way that was undeniable, and it still lingers today. Some of the biggest things that I learned from him were that we're all the same. This big ball that we all live on is hurting and sick, and we are all hurting and sick. He also showed me that I'm capable of unconditional love. Everybody is. But I first have to accept myself as I am. I got to sit here and be like, hey, you're cool. You're okay. I love you. And then from that, we'll extend my love out into the world. I'm going to finish up here with a couple points. We've been talking about what unconditional is and love is. Let's talk about what unconditional love is not. It is not letting someone beat or otherwise mistreat us. By allowing it, we are not loving ourselves, them, or the others they may beat if we do not engage in actions that demonstrate unconditional love. Unconditional love is not romantic love. It's not familial love. It's not lust. Although the objects of those types of love can show you unconditional love, it's just not those things. It is not a justification for horrible behaviors or letting people slide on the consequences of their actions. And it is not protecting someone from the negative consequences of their actions either. It is sometimes calling the police on someone if you think the police are going to be the best responders. Conclusion. I hope you're all still with me. It's a long one, sorry. So it is my humble opinion that if unconditional love is understood and implemented, even to an imperfect degree, something that we are all capable of, this world will be a drastically better place. If the members of our cultural, religious, political, social, educational, and other leading institutions were all to start this process, we would definitely start looking at each other and the world differently. More importantly, if we, the people, step into our role as the leaders of the free world, and one by one demonstrate this unconditional love, the rest will follow. Lastly, it is so easy to do. Just remember, be a friend of the world, regardless of who you're interacting with, and love yourself and your neighbor as better than yourself. Welcome to my TED Talk, and thank you for listening. Now,